Have you ever explained yourself 100 times and still felt like no one truly understood you? You talk, you prove, you adjust, yet somehow you feel unseen. Maybe it's not about being understood by others. Maybe it's about finally understanding yourself. Because once you do, the need to be understood disappears. From the moment we're young, we learn to measure our worth by how others respond to us. Their approval, their praise, their understanding. We spend years polishing the surface, building the right image, saying the right words, shaping the right impression. But in all that effort to be seen, we forget to look inward. We forget that understanding is not given by the world. It's found in silence, through self-awareness. Most people live their entire lives as strangers to themselves. They know the world's expectations, but not their own desires. They know what others think of them, but not what they think of themselves. They chase belonging, unaware that they've never even truly met the person they're trying to make belong. There comes a point in every life when you begin to notice, no amount of explaining makes people truly see you. They only see from the level of their own understanding. And when you realize that, something shifts. You stop performing, and you start reflecting. You stop asking, why don't they get me? And start asking, do I even get myself? That moment, quiet, uncomfortable, honest, is the beginning of real awareness. It is the point where self-understanding begins to replace the exhausting need for validation. Because peace does not come from being known by others, it comes from knowing who you are when no one else is looking. Understanding yourself is not an act of arrogance, it is an act of alignment. It is learning to live in harmony with your values, your boundaries, your truth. The person who truly knows themselves no longer begs for acceptance, because they've accepted themselves first. But this kind of understanding does not arrive by chance. It comes through reflection, through questioning, observing, and sometimes unlearning what you were taught to believe. It comes when you stop running from solitude and begin using it to listen. The greatest discoveries in life are not made across oceans, but across the small, uncharted distance between who you are and who you think you are. When you understand yourself, you stop living reactively, constantly adjusting to fit the room, the people, the expectations. Instead, you begin to live intentionally. You begin to act not as a response, but as a reflection of who you are. And something remarkable happens. The world, which once felt like a courtroom demanding explanations, begins to soften. You no longer need to prove yourself because you've already been proven in your own eyes. You see, the need to be understood fades the moment you become clear. And clarity is born from self-awareness, the kind that no applause can give, and no misunderstanding can take away. So perhaps the journey was never about making others see you. It was about learning to see yourself, clearly, completely, courageously. Because once you do, life no longer feels like a debate to win. It feels like a truth to live. Why self-awareness is the foundation of real confidence. Most people mistake confidence for performance. They think it's the loud voice, the firm handshake, the unshaken smile. But true confidence is not an act. It is a knowing. It is the quiet assurance that comes from understanding yourself so deeply that the world can no longer confuse you. You see, the person who lacks self-awareness must always seek confirmation. They depend on applause to feel secure, on agreement to feel right, on success to feel worthy. Their confidence rises and falls with the mood of the crowd. But the person who understands themselves has no such dependency. They are not inflated by praise, nor deflated by criticism. Their strength is internal, steady, and calm. Self-awareness is the soil where real confidence grows. It roots you in truth. It gives you a sense of direction that cannot be borrowed or bought. When you know your values, your limits, your intentions, you stop being swayed by every opinion that passes by. The world can misunderstand you, and still, you remain sure. The tragedy is that many people chase confidence in the wrong way. They try to appear certain before they've learned who they are. They decorate the shell, but neglect the foundation. They practice speeches, learn gestures, and polish their image. Yet inside, they are unsure. They live performing confidence instead of possessing it. But self-awareness changes that. It replaces appearance with authenticity. It removes the need to pretend. When you truly understand yourself, your motives, your patterns, your fears, your gifts, you become real. And reality, in a world of imitation, is magnetic. Self-awareness is not self-criticism. It is self-clarity. It's the discipline of looking within, not to judge, but to understand. It allows you to see both your strength and your weakness without denial. And that honesty gives rise to quiet courage, the kind that doesn't shout, but stands firm. Confidence built on appearance crumbles when challenged. Confidence built on self-awareness endures because it is rooted in truth. The person who knows themselves cannot be easily deceived, either by others or by circumstance. They recognize when fear is speaking. They recognize when ego is driving. And because they know they can choose differently. Think of it this way. When you understand your own nature, you stop fighting it. You learn to guide it. You no longer waste energy pretending to be someone else. You begin to build your life in harmony with who you truly are, not who the world told you to be. That harmony is confidence. The man or woman who is self-aware doesn't need to prove their worth. They express it naturally. Their presence doesn't demand attention. It commands respect. They are calm because they are clear. They are unshaken because they have met themselves and found peace in the meeting. And that's where real confidence begins, not in trying to appear more, but in understanding enough. Because the greatest security you will ever know comes from the one thing the world can't take away, the knowledge of who you are. How to stop seeking validation and find inner peace. Every person longs to be seen, to be heard, to be valued. It's a natural desire, part of what makes us human. But somewhere along the way, many of us begin to confuse validation with worth. We start believing that unless someone else approves of us, we are incomplete. And in that belief, we surrender the peace that could have been ours all along. The search for validation is a quiet kind of slavery. It teaches you to look outward for answers that only exist within. You start measuring yourself by other people's reactions, how they respond, what they think, what they say. And soon, your peace is no longer your own. It depends on things beyond your control, on moods, opinions, and misunderstandings. To stop seeking validation, you must learn to value silence over applause. You must learn to sit with yourself, to ask not, "Do they see me?" but "Do I see myself clearly?" Because inner peace begins the moment you stop negotiating your self-worth. Peace is not found in universal approval. It's found in alignment, in living according to what you know is true, even if no one else applauds it. It's in doing what's right quietly, without announcement, without need for recognition. The one who seeks peace cannot also seek constant validation, for peace lives where permission ends. The need to be understood often grows from insecurity, the belief that our truth isn't enough unless someone confirms it. But the truth does not need witnesses, it needs courage. When you know yourself, you stop explaining yourself. You no longer waste words convincing others to agree, because agreement is not your goal, authenticity is. Look at the people who radiate calm. They are not those who have been praised the most. They are those who have learned to detach from the noise. They walk through life with quiet assurance, unmoved by misunderstanding. They know that not everyone will see their intentions, and that's all right. Their peace comes not from being seen, but from seeing clearly within. To find inner peace, you must learn to trust your own awareness. Ask yourself, am I living by my principles? Am I being honest with myself? If the answer is yes, then you can rest easy, whether or not anyone else understands. Validation is like a shadow. Chase it, and it runs. Stand still, and it follows. The more you need it, the less peace you have. But the moment you stop needing it, it begins to appear naturally. People respect those who no longer beg for approval. Why? Because peace is magnetic. It draws others precisely because it asks for nothing. So stop trying to earn your worth in the mirrors of other minds. Stand still. Listen inwardly. you will find that peace was never missing. It was simply drowned out by the noise of trying to be understood. Because the world's opinion is temporary, but your self-respect is permanent. And the day you learn to prefer peace over praise is the day you finally begin to live freely. The hidden strength that comes from knowing yourself deeply. There is a kind of strength the world cannot see, a strength that doesn't shout, doesn't boast, doesn't need to be proven. It's the strength that comes from knowing yourself deeply. It cannot be taken because it was never given by anyone else. It is built in silence, tested in solitude, and revealed only when life demands it. When you know yourself, you become unshakable, not because life gets easier, but because you stop being easily moved by it. The winds still blow, but you have roots now. Opinions may change, circumstances may shift, but you stand firm, guided by an inner compass that points true, no matter how the world turns. Most people never discover this strength because they avoid the silence where it's born. They fill every quiet moment with distraction, afraid of meeting their own reflection. But the person who dares to look inward finds something extraordinary. Not perfection, but presence. They realize that strength doesn't come from adding more to yourself, but from understanding what's already there. Self-knowledge is like the foundation of a great structure. Without it, the tallest building crumbles. With it, even the simplest house can endure storms. When you truly know who you are, what you believe in, what you stand for, what you will and will not accept, you no longer need to shout your strength, you simply live it. This kind of inner power is quiet because it's certain. It doesn't need to compare, to compete, or to conquer. It knows its own value. And from that certainty comes calm. You stop reacting to every challenge as if it threatens your identity, because your identity is no longer built on the fragile opinions of others. A woman who knows herself doesn't collapse under criticism. She learns from it and moves forward. A man who understands his nature doesn't panic when plans fail. He adapts because he knows his worth isn't measured by success alone. That is the hidden strength of self-knowledge. It frees you from the fear of being broken. True resilience doesn't come from pretending to be tough. It comes from being grounded in truth. When you know your weaknesses, they can't be used against you. When you know your worth, it can't be taken from you. When you know your purpose, failure becomes a lesson, not a verdict. The world often rewards those who appear strong, but life favors those who are strong, the ones whose strength comes from self-awareness, not self-importance. Because sooner or later, every illusion shatters, every performance fades, and what remains is the substance of who you truly are. To know yourself deeply is to carry a quiet power, one that doesn't depend on circumstance. It is the strength to stay gentle in a harsh world, to remain calm in chaos, and to keep moving forward when no one else believes you can. That kind of strength is rare, not because it's unreachable, but because few are willing to look inward long enough to find it. But once you do, you'll never trade it for anything, because it's not borrowed, not taught, not given. It's discovered, and discovery is the beginning of true power. How inner reflection reveals purpose and clarity. Clarity does not come from running faster. It comes from stopping long enough to listen. Most people live in motion, moving from task to task, year to year, mistaking activity for direction. They are surrounded by noise, yet starving for meaning. But clarity isn't found in the world's volume. It's found in silence. It's not given. It's discovered through reflection, through the simple, courageous act of sitting with your own thoughts. Inner reflection is the mirror of the soul. It allows you to see what you've been avoiding, not to shame yourself, but to understand yourself. When you begin to reflect honestly, you notice patterns, the fears that guide your choices, the motives behind your habits, the desires you've silenced. Reflection brings these invisible forces into light, and once you can see them, you can choose differently. You see, purpose is not hidden from you. It's hidden within you. It's buried under the noise of other people's expectations, beneath the pressure to fit, to please, to achieve. Reflection clears that noise. It reminds you of what mattered to you before the world told you what should matter. The woman who takes time to reflect begins to see the difference between her true calling and her obligations. The man who pauses to listen inwardly begins to recognize which goals are his and which ones were borrowed from others. This is how reflection turns confusion into clarity, not by adding new answers, but by removing false ones. Most people wait for purpose to strike them like lightning, but purpose doesn't shout, it whispers, and only a quiet mind can hear it. That's why solitude is not emptiness, it's guidance. It's in those moments of stillness that your own voice, long buried under the noise of the crowd, begins to speak again. Reflection also reveals alignment, the gap between what you say you value and how you actually live. That gap is where most of life's unrest hides. When you close it, when your actions begin to reflect your truth, peace naturally follows. The clearer you become, the simpler life feels. Decisions that once caused anxiety now unfold with ease because you're no longer pulled in opposite directions. You stop asking, "What should I do?" and start asking, "What feels true?" And truth, once recognized, rarely confuses. The people who seem most grounded, calm in pressure, sure in direction, are not those who have everything figured out. They're those who have taken the time to understand themselves. They don't chase every path because they know which one is theirs. Reflection transforms chaos into coherence. It turns restlessness into resolve. It teaches you that purpose is not a destination to arrive at someday. It's a direction to walk in every day. And that direction becomes clear only when you stop running from yourself. So make time for stillness. Sit quietly. Ask simple questions. What am I avoiding? What do I love? What do I fear losing? In the answers to those questions lies your map, because clarity is never out there. It's waiting inside you, beneath the layers of noise, patiently whispering, "You already know the way." Why understanding yourself changes how you see the world. The world does not change when you understand it. It changes when you understand yourself, because the moment you see clearly within, everything outside begins to look different. When you don't know yourself, life feels like confusion. Every opinion shakes you. Every disappointment wounds you deeply. Every challenge feels personal. You read the world through the lens of your own uncertainty. But once you understand who you are, your values, your fears, your purpose, you begin to see that most of what disturbs you isn't the world itself, but your reflection in it. The angry person sees hostility everywhere. The fearful person sees danger in every corner. The peaceful person, seeing the same world, finds harmony. It was never the world that changed, only the observer. When you understand yourself, you stop interpreting life through distortion. You no longer take everything personally, because you know not every reaction is about you. You stop labeling people as enemies simply because they disagree with you. You start seeing others through empathy instead of ego, recognizing that everyone, in their own way, is trying to find themselves too. Self-understanding softens judgment. It teaches you to see the human being behind every behavior. The man who criticizes you may be speaking from insecurity. The woman who distances herself may be protecting old wounds. Once you recognize this, compassion replaces resentment. And that shift, from reaction to understanding, is the birth of wisdom. The clearer your inner world becomes, the more peaceful your outer world feels. You begin to move through life with steadiness. Problems still come, but they no longer define you. Successes still arrive, but they no longer intoxicate you. You remain centered, not because life is easier, but because you are anchored. Understanding yourself also changes what you seek. You no longer chase recognition. You seek connection. You no longer crave noise. You desire meaning. You stop running after what sparkles and begin to appreciate what lasts. The world you once thought was chaotic begins to reveal order. It reflects the peace you've cultivated within. And perhaps that is the greatest secret of all. The world mirrors your state of mind. Confusion outside is confusion inside. Peace outside begins with peace within. When you understand yourself, you understand life. Because life is not something happening to you. It's something happening through you. Your thoughts shape perception, your emotions color experience, and your awareness decides the quality of every day. So if the world ever feels dark or hostile, don't rush to fix the world. Look inward, adjust the lens. The more light you bring to your own mind, the brighter everything else will appear. In the end, self-understanding doesn't just change how you see the world. It changes what the world becomes to you. It turns struggle into lesson, noise into silence, and existence into meaning. And when that happens, you no longer wander through life searching for understanding. You become understanding itself, calm, compassionate, and free. So, you've spent so much of life trying to be understood, explaining, proving, adjusting. But the truth is, you were never meant to be fully understood by others. You were meant to be known by yourself. The peace you've been chasing will not come from convincing the world. It will come from listening within. The moment you stop performing and start reflecting, you begin to see clearly. You were never lost, only distracted. You were never unworthy, only unaware. Understanding yourself is the quiet revolution of life. It's the point where noise turns to clarity, where need turns to strength, and where searching finally turns to stillness. Don't rush to be understood. Be willing to be silent. Be willing to meet yourself in that silence, fully, honestly, and without judgment. Because the one who understands themselves no longer demands the world's approval. They walk through it with peace, and that peace is unmistakable. In the end, life is not about being understood by everyone. It's about becoming someone who finally understands.